Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Champions of Self podcast. My name is Ben Eden, your host. Today, I get to introduce Kathy Sanderson, all the way from the UK. How are you, Kathy?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Awesome. Kathy is a spiritual therapist who's joining us today. She has a fantastic story, as well as I was checking out her website just today, and she has some great things that she can teach us. So I'm excited to get into that. Kathy, let's first hear more about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so as you said, I'm in the UK. I live in a town, well, the second city, called Birmingham in England. I'm a mum of three, and whilst trying to understand life, I discovered that I had a gift for working with energy, spiritual healing. So that's what I do now, because I'm able to share all of my understanding about why my life, I believed how it was, with other people, and it really helps them to understand that they were always good, that it was never their fault.
Very good. Yeah, I like what you say about your gift, because it's important when people understand their gift, and especially when they're able to use their gift. So good for you. We'll hear more about that later. Let's jump right into your story about how you grew up and what you thought about how you grew up, maybe some emotions and thoughts that came from that.
I just thought my life was normal. And, you know, to most people it probably is. My mum and dad were together. I had a brother who was 18 months younger than me, was fine at school, got a little bit bullied, found it hard. I had lots of friends when I was younger. And then as I got near 9, 10, things happened and it wasn't as easy to be friends with people. And moving then into secondary school, it was really hard moving away from my friends, and my friends are in different classes, and I was with a group of friends who I was with just because they were there. That sounds really horrible, doesn't it? But they weren't the type of people I wanted to be friends with.
Mm-hmm.
So then got diabetes. Type 1 diabetes when I was 12. Everything changed. Everybody sort of like cared about me. Everybody was important. People wanted to know how I was feeling. And until then, I was feeling quite neglected. So I suddenly became famous as a diabetic type thing. You know, no one was it's quite common now, to type 1 diabetes, but it wasn't common 2 years ago when I became diabetic. So I was able to sort of like pull the wool over teachers' eyes, say that my sugars were low, take a friend with me to go and get some chocolate from the nurse's office. But I still struggled with friendships, still very rebellious, didn't want to do anything I was told. And that continued. I was very determined. If I wanted to do something, I would do it. It was never an easy way. I would have to claw, but I would get it. I always had money because I worked a lot of hours that I worked, and I had my things. I felt, it's really hard to admit, but I just felt evil. I wasn't into black magic. Wasn't like that. I just felt that I was wrong. I was mean, that I was selfish, that I used to describe myself as that. I trained to be a nurse for 18 months. And what I found was that even though it's a caring profession, they're not very caring towards their colleagues. So as a diabetic, you have to eat at a certain time. Well, you did then. There was no pumps, there was no pens even. You had to eat at a certain time. You had to have your lunch at a certain time. Sugars would drop, especially if you were doing something that was unusual. I just got made to feel like I was so lazy. So I used to turn around and I used to say to people I wasn't caring enough to be a nurse. More the fact that I was just neglected because that was my belief system. I wasn't important. So I always believed I wasn't very good. No, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good. Then when when you don't think that you're good, you don't really value yourself very highly. So you think that you're doing the things that you want to do, like going out, getting drunk all weekend. You know, I used to live to work for the weekend. That's it. Friday night to Sunday night. I just thought that was life. You know, we are bombarded with soaps in England. We've got EastEnders, we've got Coronation Street, we've got Emmerdale. You turn the TV on and there's a soap on. And it's all about, so, you know, life's shit. You can't be happy. If you get married in a soap, you can guarantee that someone's going to have an affair, or someone's going to die, or someone's going to find their long lost brother was actually the man they married, type thing. So there was always, happiness was always offset by sadness, because sadness is what makes people watch it, doesn't it? You're not going to watch people happy because we're not used to people being happy. So in that respect, my life was good. In the respect of watching Jerry Springer, my life was good, or Jeremy Kyle, as we have had in England. It just felt, you know, there was nothing. And it was only when I started doing what I do. I did that because I lost so many babies and I got so desperate. I'd already got my 3. I was just desperate to have a 4th. And I looked at the ways, because until then I had been a perfect product of hospitals. I believed in them completely because I'd been diabetic since I was 12. I wanted to see, because it wasn't working. I went and worked with a healer, and things he brought up, I was like, yeah, but that was in the past. How would that? No, but that made you feel this way. That made you feel this way, and you had these beliefs about yourself. And the more I dug into it, I'm going to tell you, no, you know, I think I was evil. I think I was mean. I think I was selfish. Do you know what my nickname was when I was 3? Evil Edna.
At 3?
At 3. But
Wow.
I say it to my mum, because I've worked on this a lot. She still thinks it's funny, because I was like, there was this show on the telly, a cartoon called Willow the Wisp. And Evil Edna was this TV witch. So she was very cute, old-fashioned TV with little legs, and she had a little pointy witch's hat and 10 eyes that cackled. And they used to say that when I would have a tantrum, I would be like Evil Edna, cackling antennas. And I'm like, Mum, I was 3. Now I know why I think I'm evil. Now I know why that's the thing that comes to my head. I was 3. My children have nicknames, yeah. They're called like names which reflect, my daughter's Maisie, so Maisie Moo, Little Turtle, you know, nice, cute names that they relate to, they love. He loves turtles, he's got a few turtles. So for me, it just seems so odd that somebody would call their 3-year-old evil and think it was funny.
Right.
That set a pattern, because at 3 you're still learning everything, can't you? Everything people tell you, everything you see and hear and people show you, that's you. So I used to dream of turning people into frogs.
Wow.
Everyone was horrible to me. I wanted to have revenge on them. And you know, that isn't a normal thing for a child to feel. It's conditioned. People just do not understand how deep children take on things that they see or hear or are told.
So we're going to pause real quick in your story, where a lot of things that you were mentioning, where, you know, you lived for the weekend, or just the way that life was for you, you had considered normal, right? Because you didn't know any other way, and it seemed like everybody else went through that. I think that's an interesting point for the listeners to understand, because some listeners may not consider that type of life normal, but it's important for people to realize the life that they're in does seem normal. Then here's the important part, and why it's on this podcast, where living for a weekend of drinking and all that kind of stuff, we realize that often the drinking and everything else is used to hide the emotions that aren't resolved from the week. But we don't always realize that. And so when we consider life normal, but hey, what I do isn't making me happy, but I guess this is a normal life. Anyway, we feel lost and we feel trapped. But the fact of the matter is, the more we understand and acknowledge our emotions, then we have power over it. So as we come to understand, okay, even though this is how I was raised, and maybe it was quote unquote normal, I still have power to control what I'm going to do from here forward. I still can change my behaviors. I still can understand my emotions to choose how I will feel. Yes, I might still experience some sadness or some anger or some fear or whatever it may be, but I can choose how long those affect me. And I can choose to be happy or choose to be whatever. Anyway, so that's the point I wanted to make. How have you, tell us more about now what you do to help others, because obviously you came through these experiences to prepare you for where you are today, to use your gift to help others. So let's hear more about that.
True. I was just thinking, I lived for the weekend, but then I also saved up all year to go on holiday for 2 weeks.
Oh.
Again, to drink for that whole 2 weeks. But it was just like you were saying about management, a coping system, isn't it? You can deal with whatever anyone's doing or saying to you, because you know that you're just going to go away and you can act how you want because you're drunk, and that's an excuse, and not think about anything. It's what you were saying. It's all about healing, because we just moving from that victim mentality. Things are done to us. People are mean to us. It's all because of us. By choosing how we're going to react to something, we claim back our power.
Exactly.
So we empower ourselves, and then we can look, because we step away from it and we choose not to be that victim role. We can say, like, someone cuts us up in the arm. I'm getting a lot better at it, but I'm still, when someone cuts up in front of me, automatically we go, it's endangering ourselves, especially because I've normally got my children in the car. But just pulling ourselves out of that and thinking, well, hang on, maybe they're running late from work. Maybe they've got an appointment. And just pulling it away from the fact that, oh, somebody decided, no one jumped in front of that person, they jumped in front of me. That's because they see me as, Just that enables you to see, yeah, there might be an arsehole. And my husband is the person who, if he sees a space, will cut up in front of someone. That's just how he is, But just by seeing it from somebody else's perspective, it takes all of that pressure off you. That's the power of it. So, yes, I did not have a classical traumatic upbringing. I was not sexually abused. I wasn't physically abused. I was hit. As we grew, I'm 44. When we were children, it wasn't illegal to hit them. So, you got hit by a spatula and all of those types of things. I wasn't abused. I would never have been taken away by a social worker. I was quite privileged. I went to the school clubs. Whatever came on, school holidays, now they are expensive. And I went on whichever ones I wanted. I went skiing. I went to Corsica. I went wherever it was, whatever trips I would go. My mum would make sure that we had enough money and I could go. My mum and dad were together. They both worked. We had the money to go on holiday abroad. I never felt loved. I never felt valued. I never felt important. I always felt that my mum loved my brother more. For a while, I felt like I was important to my dad until I could sort of like speak and have an opinion, and then I get left at home. So I can understand from so many different perspectives and levels when people come and see me, because I often think, if I had have been so badly abused as some of the clients I work with were, if somebody came to me with the pain, how I'm feeling or how I did feel, would I have been able to empathize with them as much? Because what have you got to feel sorry about for?
Right.
So, know why these things happened, and I'm here to heal the generational line, because my mum was emotionally abused. Her nan was a narcissist. But you know, because my mum's been working with me, healing her inner child, she actually said something nice that happened to her with her nan. And I'm like, what nan was that? Was that nanny? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, that's the first time I've ever heard you say a nice thing that happened between the two of you.
Wow.
But when you heal the misery and all of those lies created about yourself, you know, as humans, we hang on to the pain because we never want to go back there again. Right. We're designed to keep ourselves safe. So when we heal that and we remove that, then we can remember we did have happy times as a child. The more that we can focus on those happy times, the more we can bring happiness into our life now.
Right.
So the work I do with my clients, getting back to your question, is, as I said, I'm an energy healer, so I can read people's bodies. Now, this might sound a bit strange to people listening, but your body knows how to heal itself.
Right.
Always. So when it finds someone who can listen to it, it's ramming me all full of this information. But what it does is it tells me what you are ready to heal. I'm blessed with the ability to know when it happened. So I would know what age it happened and what kind of experience it was. So I can guide you back to it, because the past hurts, doesn't it? When someone ignored you, when somebody hurt you, when your best friend wouldn't play with you, when the guy you liked at school didn't want to go out with you, all of those things hurt you and you don't want to remember them. I guide you back to that gently so that you can look at it now and remember how you felt, but view it from a different perspective. Because it felt bad then because of all of these things and you didn't have the support, but you give yourself that support. So you heal that memory with emotions associated to it. And if you imagine that your body is a flowing up and down thing of energy, every single one of these experiences is what creates blocks. So when we heal that little bit of trauma, your energy flows better. So whether that was stopping you, whether that was creating a condition and pain, anything, fibromyalgia sufferers do so well with this because they finally know that they don't need to beat themselves up anymore. So when you actually remove that blockage, you start to feel more normal. You don't have that pain. You start to realize that perhaps I'm not as bad as people say. Perhaps, you know, I'm a pretty nice person.
Yeah.
What we believe about ourselves is what we reflect back into our reality. It's okay saying these affirmations, and you can wake up every single day and say, I deserve to have this, or I am this. But if your little child inside you does not believe that, all you're going to keep attracting is what they believe you're worth.
That's huge. And that's that idea has gotten me into what I do now, because we can listen to all of the positive messages and say, here's how, and here's what you need to do, and yada, yada. But if we still have what you said, the inner child, or what I say, the emotional pain, unresolved emotions, then we'll go to those seminars or listen to that podcast or whatever, and we'll say, yes, but that's not for me, or that will never work for me because, and it's all that little, whatever the size is, right? That part inside of us that is holding us back. And so it's super important not to ignore it. We've done that for most of our lives. Another thing that I wanted to point out from what you were saying is even your thought process, as you were just telling us your story, was but I don't have any reason to feel this way, right? You were comparing your story to others, and you say, well, my life hasn't been as quote unquote bad as others. I haven't gone through what others have had to go through. So why should I feel this way? But that's the thing about us. We don't need to compare our emotions to others. We don't need to look externally for that validation. We do need to give ourselves permission to feel what we're feeling. Because like you said, our bodies are designed to heal. They know what it needs to feel better. And so it's saying, hey, Kathy, I have a message for you. Here's what is going on. And if we can train ourselves to listen, or get in contact with somebody who knows how to listen and can train us that way, then that emotional energy can be released in a healthy way. Anyway,
It's
back
so
to you.
powerful. It's so powerful. Like you were saying, though, if you go to, another way that this can show you that you're no good is if you go to those seminars and you sit there, you think, oh my God, this is how it's going to be. It's going to be so fantastic. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it every single day. And you get up at 6 o'clock, and you do the miracle morning, and you do the affirmations, and you're putting yourself in that way. But because your inner child doesn't believe that you can do this, that you are that, it's going to not work. But when it doesn't work, it's going to be another nail in that coffin, that dripping tap that says, you're no good, you can't do this. Why would you do this? And so many people get frustrated and they fall off that self-improvement bandwagon because it's not working. It just shows that we're no good again.
Right.
Repeating, continual pattern. That it's like, that's why I say about fibromyalgia, because it's well known that it comes from a trauma. And as a child, everything that, if a child can't have a cookie, if they can't have a cookie and they're 2 years old, it's traumatic to them because they really wanted that cookie. And at 2 years old, they can't process that maybe it's not time for me to have a cookie. So as an adult, we look back at our childhood experiences and we think, oh, well, that's normal. How many times when somebody gets bullied, they say, well, it made me into who I am, and I'm stronger because of it, and all of that type of stuff. But when you were 6, you didn't want to be stronger. You just wanted to be accepted. You wanted to know it was safe to walk down the school hall or be in the playground, and somebody wasn't going to trip you up or come and kick you. And yes, it's nice that someone's trying to make you feel better. By telling you that being bullied was good for you and it made you the man that you are, what are they telling that little boy? Telling him that all of those feelings that he felt at that time weren't true.
Exactly.
One of the most important things that we need to do as adults for our inner child is validate how they felt. Sometimes it's enough just to be heard. Let it all out. It can be that powerful.
It's true. Yeah, like you're saying, if the scenario happens just as you said, where getting bullied makes you stronger kind of thing, then the child hears, yes, but I don't feel stronger, so there must be something wrong with me. And all those thoughts come, and then it's stuck with them for years, and then 15, 20 years later, we look at the person and say, well, what's going on? Right? It's because they've had that belief all the way from years ago.
We rationalize it as adults. We go, oh, well, we can't still be feeling because we were dumped at 14 by so-and-so, because we've moved on, and time, oh God, people say, time's a great healer. No, it's not. Time's a great number, perhaps. It allows you to bury it down a bit deeper, but it doesn't heal it. If you felt sad and people were saying, oh, plenty more fish in the sea, better off without them, it's still not dealing with how they felt. Let them talk about how they felt. And if they need to talk about it for a week, let them talk. Let them understand that it was nothing that they did. If they've still carried that for another 14 years, They need to know, the little 14-year-old needs to know that it wasn't because they weren't good enough.
Very good. I like that. So as we wrap this up, tell the listeners, hopefully we've opened up their brain and they're like, wow, they have some thoughts coming to them. Okay, maybe this was me, or I totally feel that way. Let's finish by giving them maybe a tool or two. What can they do with these emotions that are coming up? Of course, they could reach out to you, and we'll get to there in a second, but maybe something that they can try on their own at first.
What I've done is I've put together a free guide, and it's just 3 simple steps for you to reconnect with your inner child, because sometimes a child's hiding. It doesn't want to come out. It feels neglected and ignored and unloved, and we've not spoken to them for so long that why are they going to trust us when we go and find them? So this guide is all about bringing them back in. 3 steps that we can do in our daily life. We don't have to do anything special, just to start that reconnection before we go into meditation, before we start actually connecting, to just bring the child back into our life. So this free guide is available at healingfromwithin.co.uk/reconnect. You can download it, you don't have to do it, or you can just do one thing. Bringing the fun back into your life, because as adults we think fun's childish.
Mm-hmm.
Talk all the time, it's childish. It's so important, and that's what starts to build that connection, because then we can start to relax. As somebody who's experienced negative experiences in childhood, it's hard to be silent, it's hard to be still, it's hard to relax. So this helps.
Yeah. Man, that brings to mind, and let's see if you agree, but some people, yes, find it hard to be silent, hard to relax, because maybe they're worried they'll have to face their inner child, or they've tried to be so busy their entire life because they know, or at least they think, that if they're alone, then all of a sudden everything they've tried to run from and that is unresolved will all of a sudden be there, and that's just too terrifying. Is that right?
I used to hate being alone as a child. Hit me, whatever, but don't send me to my room as a child. So when I got my own place, when I was with my mum and dad, I never wanted to be in my house. But when I got my own place, I liked having that little bit of time to myself, but I was always out. I never realised why. It's why I was a party animal. But I could not be alone with my own thoughts. And doing this work, it's so great now. I can just sit there and nothing bad comes up. If it does, I know how to deal with it, because it's another layer that's ready to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are busy. So many people won't allow themselves to sit still, because when you sit still, it comes up.
Right. It's reminded me of something. I've talked to some colleagues, and some of them, they mentioned to me that they have some unresolved emotions, or they're like, yeah, I'm dealing with a lot. And then I say, hey, I'd love to talk about it. But they say, I'm not ready to talk about my emotions. And that's fair. Some people just aren't ready. Is there any piece of advice that you would give somebody like that? If they right now feel that I'm not ready to talk about my emotions, how can they, maybe something they can do either now that helps them get on the right path, or something that'll push them towards getting more comfortable talking about their emotions?
Learning to love yourself, which is so powerful, so very powerful, because once you start to realize that you are worthy, you are good, you are lovable, things just happen.
Mm-hmm.
If people can't see that there's a connection, what I say to do is to think about why you're feeling sad now, what happened, who made you. I hate those things, but that's what people use, isn't it? Who made you feel sad? Who made you feel angry or upset? Write it down, how you felt, who was involved, where it was. Then think about 6 months ago. Again, who made you feel this way? Similar. Who was involved, what happened, where it was, how you felt. Then jump 5 years. First thing that comes into your head, write it down. What happened? Who was involved? 10 years, depending how old you are, another 10 years. Then teenage, normally around 16. What happened that made you feel very similar to these experiences? Write it down, who was involved, how you felt. And then jump to age 6. Just by seeing that timeline of how you've always felt, age 6 will show you why.
Very cool. Okay, Kathy, well, you've shared a lot of great things with us today. If somebody would like to connect with you on social media to learn more, how can they do so?
You can find me at Healing From Within, UK. You have to put UK on there, you can find me. And the same for Instagram.
Perfect. And I will be sure to put the link with that goes to your free 3 steps on the podcast.
Fantastic.
But besides that, thank you for joining today, Kathy, and listeners, thank you for joining another episode of the Champions of Self podcast, and we will talk to you next time.